Well, good morning, everyone. I wonder how you responded to just hearing our Bible reading for today. I confess I've been dwelling on this all week, but I couldn't help but feel slightly uncomfortable. It's very challenging, isn't it? Very challenging. Now, don't get me wrong. Your new associate vicar doesn't have a cold heart of stone. But I have to be honest, I've walked past the hungry and homeless. Yes, I reassure you, I have bought food for the homeless. On occasions, I've given a coat or a sleeping bag. But I have to be honest that the need has been so much greater than my actions. Where I lived before, near Stoke and in Manchester, the two sort of big cities near me, there are occasions when I felt overwhelmed by the need. And I'm pretty sure Bristol's no different. I've only been in the city centre once, just because of all the lockdown that's going on. But I suspect, and in that one visit, I didn't see anything different. That strange mix of shopping and spending, and literally sat in the doorsteps in some shops of that need and that poverty. And what of the sick and the prisoner that our reading refers to? At my old church, one of our mission partners that we supported was CSW, Christian Solidarity Worldwide. CSW supports our persecuted Christian brothers and sisters in prison around the world. And did I sign the petitions? Did I support CSW? Yes, I did. But did I respond to every prayer request, appeal, and individual correspondence that they alerted me to? Again, please don't judge me harshly. But again, the honest answer is no. Let me just remind you of the challenge of our reading. Verse 41. Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me." They also will answer, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or needing clothes or sick or in prison and did not help you?" He will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me." So it's clear, isn't it? In our Bible reading, Jesus is saying that our eternal destiny is set by our actions. The imagery is of a heavenly sorting pen, and the goats go one way and the sheep the other. But maybe it's not as clear as it appears, which takes us into an important detail for our understanding of the Bible reading that we're exploring today. Let me ask you a simple question. I know you're muted, but you can think about it in your heads. What's the difference between sheep and goats? Well, that's easy, isn't it? One is cute and fluffy and white as snow, and the other is a bit gruff. They're brown or grey with a beard and horns, and they're most notorious. They'll eat your washing given half a chance, even your pants. Sheep and goats to us are very distinctly different, aren't they? I know that's sweeping generalisation, but to us, sheep and goats are as clear as dogs and cats or cows and horses. But when Jesus told this parable, he was speaking into a different part of the world, to the world that we know. He was speaking into a Middle Eastern context where things weren't quite as simple as maybe we hear when we first hear this reading. You see, a typical farmer or shepherd in the Middle East would have a mixed flock of both sheep and goats. Both were of value to him. Both were equally as important. They were intermixed. And to the untrained eye, actually, it's really quite tricky to tell which is which. Some of the sheep aren't white. Some of the sheep have horns. I don't know if you'll be able to see this clearly. I'll hold a little picture up to the camera, but that gives you a gist. They're all different colours, they've got horns. It's not that simple picture that maybe we have in our mind. And it's still the same in many parts of the developing world. If you went to many parts of Africa, you would see flocks of mixed sheep and goats. And again, to us Westerners, we wouldn't necessarily get it right if we were asked, what's that? So you see, that's part of the punch of Jesus's parable. Things are not quite as clear-cut as we would like them to be. As we hear in this parable, Jesus says there are people who are confident in their righteousness, who think they are sheep. But it turns out in the parable that they're goats. And there are people who question their own righteousness, who think they are goats, but who Jesus says are righteous, are sheep. Let me read to you verse 37 onwards. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Then he will say to those on his left, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me. They will also answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or needing clothes or sick or in prison and did not help you? He will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. So it's not actually clear cut to us, but it is clear cut to Jesus. It can be very easy for us to set ourselves up in judgment. But this passage reminds us afresh that it is Jesus who judges, not us. As Christians, sometimes we can be people of contradiction. These days, we don't like to talk about and think about judgment. It's one of those things that we don't talk about much in church these days. Unless maybe we're thinking about murderers and child abusers, there's that kind of category. But otherwise, we're uncomfortable about judgment. But we are tempted to privately make our own judgments all the time on the conduct of others. There's something in us, in our humanity, where we're drawn to criticising others, picking out others' faults, and in a strange way, feeling some sort of distorted satisfaction in establishing other people's faults. That's something of our not particularly pleasant human sinful nature. In the telling of this parable, Jesus tells us it should be the other way round. We should be concerned about eternal judgment. We should be concerned about the eternal destiny of our friends and our families and our neighbours. But judging isn't our place. Our energies, our thoughts, our time should be directed in helping others to meet Jesus, to communicating and demonstrating his love, not judging others. So let's try and be clear. Is Jesus saying that essentially our eternal destiny is determined by whether we've fed the hungry, given drink to the thirsty, offered sanctuary and clothing to the homeless and the refugee, whether we visited the sick and those in prison. Well, yes, that's what it says in this parable, isn't it? But there is a but. I hope you know that at the heart of the Christian faith is grace. I hope you know that at the heart of the Christian faith is not the challenge to somehow be good enough, but the humility to ask for Jesus' help. To draw upon the language of our parable, righteousness is about being in right relationship with God. That's what righteousness is. It's not a holy glow. You may have noticed the different points I've been preaching. My faith has illuminated. I wish that was reflecting my holiness. It's actually that we still haven't got curtains that will fit our windows. And so when the sun shines brightly, my face is illuminated. Holiness, sadly, is not a holy glow. It's not a moral superiority. But it's a question of relationship, of being in right relationship with our Heavenly Father through Jesus. So here's another important lesson that we can take from our Bible reading today. Even with the words of Jesus, we need to hear them in the wider context of the Bible. Even the words of Jesus, if we take them out of context with everything else that he says in the Bible, then there's the potential that we could get confused or get the wrong end of the wrong stick. The early church had this exact issue to figure out, as we hear in the book of James. Jesus is the brother of James, and James is a leader in the early church in Jerusalem. And he says this in the book of James, chapter 2, verses 14, reading through to 19. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm and well fed, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. But someone will say, you have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. You believe that there is one God. Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. And then he goes on to offer two examples from the Old Testament of people who put their faith in action. He chooses Abraham and Rahab. And then in verse 26, he continues, as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead. To return to our Bible passage from today and those words from Jesus' lips again. Then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me. I don't have the kind of brain that just photographically remembers quotes or Bible verses. Again, I'm not very holy. But a quote that has always stuck with me from my teenage years, actually, is a quote from a Christian writer called Brennan Manning. Amongst many books, he wrote a book called The Ragamuffin Gospel. And this is the quote that sticks with me. The greatest single cause of atheism in the world today is Christians who acknowledge Jesus with their lips, walk out the door, and deny him by their lifestyle. That is what an unbelieving world finds simply unbelievable. It's all pretty simple, really. Followers of Jesus follow Jesus. Christians follow Jesus' teaching. They follow in his example. They live out his teaching. I don't know if you're old enough to remember the Ronseal advert, but it does what it says on the tin. Christians follow Christ. Followers of Jesus follow Jesus' teaching. They believe what he said and they live it out. In Matthew's Gospel, chapter 22, Jesus is challenged by a young expert in the law who asks him, what is the most important commandment? Effectively, he was asking, what is the meaning of life? I wonder if you can remember what Jesus said. Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. So what can we take from our Bible reading into the rest of today, into tomorrow and into the day after that and the day after that? Being a Christian isn't a tick the go to church on a Sunday box thing. It isn't even be a good person and say your prayers. At the heart of Christianity is not a set of scales to somehow weigh up our good deeds. At the heart of Christianity is Jesus and the cross. At the heart of Christianity is the supreme act of love and forgiveness and grace. At the heart of Christianity is the risen Jesus. At the heart of Christianity is a relationship with the risen Jesus. When we put him at the center of our lives, each day we seek to become a little more like him, to live his way a little more than the day before. The King will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. When we put our faith in Jesus, it should show. When we receive his love and forgiveness and grace, we mustn't keep it to ourselves, but we must share it with others so that they too can become righteous, so that they too can enter into right relationship with him. So by way of a response, just going to allow us a little bit of space now to take a little time to pray, to have time with God, maybe to engage with him where we feel really challenged by this passage. And as we do that, there's going to be some music gently playing in the background, just almost like fill the awkward silence, and some images on the screen that maybe will give us things to think about, to pray about, in terms of, as followers of Jesus, how we're called to live and what it means to live lives of worship. So Beverly's going to share screen.
You call